Over the holidays, I decided it was finally time to get my baking center organized. It had long become a dumping ground for everything that didn't have a home in the kitchen. I found this cabinet many years ago at a Goodwill for $50 and was so excited. It does have glass doors, which I removed for this purpose, but it is a beautiful old piece. The marble slab was added on the top to make it more functional as a baking center, which was a great addition. First things first, I took everything off of it that I know I was not going to need. I wanted this to be a very functional space, and I did not want a lot of excess clutter. Once I had everything cleaned off, I knew that I wanted to brighten up the back of this piece with some paper or fabric of some sort. I didn't want to paint it because the shelves had these really cool brackets that were handmade, and I thought it might ruin it by painting them. So instead, I decided to come up with something that was removable and redoable very easily. To get started, I measured the width and the height of each shelf opening. Next, I gathered up my supplies. You're going to need material like fabric, paper, wallpaper, etc. Foam board, I used 6 pieces that I just got at the dollar store. Scissors, marker or pen, a yardstick, a utility knife, and 2-inch tape. At this point, I've already cut my pieces to height, but I'm trying to cut the opening now for the outlet. I measured in from the side and the top, and then I just marked it with a Sharpie. I used my yardstick as a guide to draw straight lines. I used my utility knife to cut out the opening. A little karate chop to pop that out, and then it is ready to put in. Now, because this piece is over 100 years old, it was not a perfect fit, and I did need the scissors for trimming little odds and ends. Once I had the 2 pieces fairly cut to size, they were overlapping in the middle, so I just took a Sharpie and drew a line down the center and cut off the excess. This does work a little bit like sheetrock if you've ever worked with sheetrock, so I scored one side, popped it open, and then scored the other side to remove the excess. I am struggling a little bit here with my blade, but I think it's just because it's not quite sharp enough. Might be time for a new one. Okay, now onto the pretty part. I have had this paper in my storage for a long time. It's a paper table runner that I picked up at a thrift store for like $5. I realize that this is something that is not long-term or extremely durable and can't be washed, but I am looking for just a temporary upgrade to pretty this piece up a little bit. Here I'm starting by lining up the 2 pieces together on the edge, and I'm going to tape them together just with Scotch tape. You could use some sort of duct tape as well. I just recommend using at least 2 inches for security. I realized later on that I put it on the back side and not the front side. I would recommend the front side just because you want this to be bendable for moving in and out of your shelf. I just added a piece here that was about the same length as the pieces. Then I used my yardstick to level it at the top and make sure it's even all the way across. Alright, now to see if it fits inside the space, just going to do a quick dry fit. Not even sure what dry fit means, but I think that's the term. And there we go, it looks like a perfect fit. Here I'm rolling out my paper and then putting my foam board face down. I did realize I had it upside down later on, but too late. And then I'm going to tape the edges. Now here I'm not being perfect at all. This is going to be hidden behind the foam board once it's in the cabinet. I did try to fold my corners very carefully though, just because I didn't want extra bulk. You can go ahead and complete this on all 4 sides, and then you're ready to go. The only part that required a little extra attention was the opening for the outlet box. I took my utility knife and cut an X in the middle, and then I did need scissors to kind of clip the edges to clean that up a bit. Then I just folded them back and taped them closed. Overall, this was a very simple and very affordable project to upgrade the backdrop of my cabinet. I also love this because it just adds something that is easy to change for seasons or on a whim. I went ahead and did the rest of the 3 shelves, which are a whole lot easier now that I've got the process figured out. And here is my new backdrop. I love it. I think it's a fun, new, fresh look. Now on to refilling it and adding all the pretty things. These jars I got at Walmart actually quite a while ago. I really spent very little on this project. Most of the stuff I had, I just needed to organize it. Most of the jars with the black lids came from my shop a couple years ago. They have an old-fashioned look to them and very clean, which I love. I did use some ball jars for things, which are completely practical and very affordable. I did want to keep this fairly practical and not add back in a lot of stuff that I didn't use on a regular basis, so I decided with some of the empty spots I would add some pretty things in as well. Next up, I gathered all my baking supplies: flour, sugar, baking soda, etc. When I organize and decorate, I often find other things around the house that I think will fit in the space and repurpose them. So this jar, for instance, is one of my favorites. It's an old antique Roseville, and it ended up being perfect to store my cookie cutters. I had to add my favorite bowl set. This was actually gifted to me from a very kind customer years ago. Sadly, I broke the green bowl and I have not yet replaced it, but it is a very kind gift, and I love them. I also think this is a great time to take the opportunity to clear out old stock. This one was 2015. Holy smokes. Never too busy for a quick puppy break. Plus, my brain was a little overloaded at this point. I have not baked a lot in the last couple years, so I definitely needed to take the time to refresh some of my ingredients. So I dumped out a lot of the old ones and got some fresh new ones in the jars. For some of the ingredients that I knew were not really that old, I ended up dumping out the older stuff and putting in the fresh new packs at the bottom of the container, then pouring the older, still usable stuff back in on top. My mom ended up actually finding these little mini ball jars that are so cute, and they were the perfect size for my spices, cream of tartar, etc. So I went ahead and took them out of the original containers and filled up all the little ball jars. And in just a minute, I'll show you how I put labels on everything. Lastly, I needed a place for all my cookbooks. The top shelf was kind of small and not real functional, so I just laid them on their sides, and I think they're very pretty. I don't access them a lot, so they are a perfect spot for that. I did have a variety of handwritten recipes too that I wanted to keep, so I grabbed another old bowl and filled it up. Well, now that everything is organized, I wanted to get some labels on things so I actually could figure out what was in each jar. It was a little bit of a mystery at this point. I found these labels on Amazon. They did come in a variety, which I did not realize for some reason, and I decided to pick out just a handful of shapes that I wanted and not do all of them, just to keep a cleaner look. I was using so many different shapes and sizes of containers that it was a little hard to pick just one style. So I tried out a few. I liked the decorative ones, but I figured that it was a little bit better just to keep that clean, simple line because of all the differences. I did have to cut them down, which was fine. I just cut them to size. And then I did like one of them that had a little bit of a curved end, and I ended up custom cutting each one of those. So I do feel like it added just a little bit of detail that it needed. I did just freehand them. I suppose you could use a template, but I wasn't being that picky at this point. I just wanted to get them labeled. It's really important with these chalkboard labels that you make sure your surface is extremely clean and extremely dry. So I made sure I prepped each one of them and made sure my hands were very clean. Then I just laid them down and applied from the center out and tried to smooth out any bubbles. I did try writing on a flat surface before applying it to the glass, but I got smart right afterwards and realized that when I went to apply them and smooth them out, I wiped the chalk right off. So I learned, and lesson to you as well, do it on the glass. It actually isn't that hard. I just did block printing. I didn't try to do anything fancy. This is supposed to be functional, and I really didn't mind the clean look. It made it look a little old-fashioned. Next up were the candy jars that I put my sugar in, and they have metal lids. The labels stuck pretty well to the metal lids as well. Just again, keep them clean and try to center them as best as possible. This one I put crooked, and it will probably forever bug me, but too late. Here's a little bit closer up view of the 4-pack of ball jars that I got from Walmart. I found a jar of poppy seeds, so I just had to add one more to make it complete. None of the labels I had were quite the right size for these spice jars, so I went ahead and cut out a couple of the ones that I knew I wouldn't use, and I used the top of an old spice jar to use as my template. So I just cut a circle here, and then I did that on repeat for all 5 of them. I do wish I had a little bit of a smaller pen for this project, especially for these little spice jars, but I was just using what I had on hand. I did write the name of the spice on each one, and then I made sure to include the expiration date. Just a little side tip on the chocolate chips, butterscotch chips, and such. I will cut a piece of the packaging that includes the expiration date and drop that inside the jar. It's just a helpful little reminder when you go to replace ingredients. Alright, you guys, that's it. I am so happy with how it turned out. It feels so clean and organized, and I just want to get in there and start baking. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you got some fun tips or ideas, or maybe a little inspiration to redo your baking center. I also would really love it if you subscribe to my page and comment below saying hello, and I look forward to showing you more ideas in the future. Be blessed and happy baking!